general question as always, how'd you feel out there today?
Overall, felt good. Stuff was good as well. Just missed with some of the stuff, but other than that, like physically felt fine. Um, I kind of figured they were going to throw, their best guys. We got a week left, so I figured. But hey, I mean that's a playoff lineup, World Series type lineup. So I mean, I'm happy with it. Try to come straight after them.
Do you feel more comfortable going into the season knowing you're, solidified in a starter's role?
I mean, they haven't told me anything yet, so I'm still. If you ask me, I'm still fighting for a spot. So, I mean, hey, I mean that's the job or that's the goal, But I mean, whatever they need. I mean, if they need me the bullpen, I'll do it too. So,
What's your confidence level at this point?
um, it hasn't changed really. I mean, the only thing that's really changed is just me getting more comfortable with the pitches and stuff I've been working on, and just from there, I mean, just taking it out to the field and having confidence in it.
What he talked about the fact that you must prefer the idea of being a starter over coming out of the bullpen, that you just have more of a starter's mindset, I guess, and there are things you want to do.
I mean, I going through the minor leagues, I was always a starter, and then came up to the big leagues as a bullpen guy. So, I kind of at first I didn't like it because I didn't know anything about the bullpen, and so last year really grew on me a lot. And I was like, you know what? I was actually kind of like it. I was like, whether they need it or if they whatever it is. So, I definitely didn't wanted to come off as like I wanted to be a starter and deserved it, but I was like, whatever they need, because it just took me a little while to get used to in the bullpen. But other than that, like I was cool with it. I mean, I'm fine with whatever they need though.
It's a pretty young rotation outside of Gray. Did that put a lot of pressure on the rest of y'all, you think, to step up and kind of hold this thing together?
Honestly, not even close. I mean, I honestly think if you ask a bunch of the guys that, all of us young guys, like we got a good taste of it last year, and we're all pulling for each other. So it definitely makes it a lot more fun. And I mean, there's no pressure at all. I mean, we got Seager and Simeon up the middle, and we got guys that can swing it. So, it's. I don't think the mindset's going to change at all.
Bringing it there, how does it feel knowing that Simeon and Seager are right behind you?
It's fun, to see guys that you played against to finally be on your team has been awesome. They definitely make it easier as well. They make good plays. They can swing it too. So, I'm just excited to try to get to as many ground balls as I can.
Was there anything in particular you were working on today?
Not really. It's kind of it's so hard for me to. I think the only time I can't think of a time where I really just like worked on stuff. Whether it be a game or a backfield game. Like I mean, it's really hard for me to try to work on stuff. The only time I do work on stuff is in bullpens. So like games, I'm kind of just letting it loose. Like okay, I trust it. Let's just see how it plays off of that.
So so that game today then was just like a regular season game for you then, right?
Yeah, yeah. Every game has been.
Really?
So yeah. So I took that start like it was a regular season game, like we were playing the Dodgers during the season. So.
What do you think you need to do this year to kind of take the next step?
I think what I did, like what I have been doing this spring, has just been pounding the zone and just trying to throw strikes and trying to make them put the ball in play. As I gotten older, I've learned to like stop chasing strikeouts and just more so just make them put the ball in play and trust my stuff. And like it's been paying off for me the last 2 years from when I was on the bullpen, the rotation as well. So.
What does he need to do this year to, I guess, take the next step?
Honestly, continue what he's doing. I don't want to put, too high of expectations. I know he has really high expectations for himself. He mentioned winning the Cy Young, and I love that about him. But I think just the development and the growth that he's had from last year and heading into this year, what we've seen so far on the mound, it's really, really good. He's just got to keep refining his stuff, get a little bit more consistent, and I guess the analogy I'd use is, the dart player who can barely hit the dartboard, and now they can basically get right around that bullseye every time. That's where he's at. He's really refined his stuff, and just continue to do that. I know he's going to have days where it isn't as good, but the stuff is there. Take care of his body, learn to be a starter, learn to recover, learn to pitch when, maybe he doesn't have his best stuff that day. And I think that that's where the maturity level allows him to be more successful in those situations, because he knows I don't have to be perfect to beat the team that I'm facing. He's able to deal with adversity much better. He's able to execute better. He's just in a much better place. But, he wants to be the best in baseball, which I really, really appreciate. But that takes time to develop. but I love where he's at right now.
Is the middle part of that what gives him that opportunity?
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like a guy who, when you say he wants to be the best,
Yeah.
when you see a guy that comes in and like in the Rangers have taken guys before and brought them out of the bullpen and put them to start because they wanted to do that and had some success with it, I'm feeling like that's as important, if not more so, than the physical attributes.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think it's funny how a lot of guys, you start in the bullpen, they're 1, 2 inning, maybe 3 innings, and it's just kind of like, hey, man, just go face 6 guys and blow them away. The stuff plays up. Everything usually is. There's a little bit more clarity in that role as far as just, okay, I'm just going to use my best pitches and dominate the opposing team. When you're a starter, there's a lot more, legwork, that you have to do before a game. There's a lot more preparation. And knowing the hitters, you have to go through a lineup twice, maybe 3 times through. He actually got more comfortable as a starter than I ever saw him as a reliever.
Really?
I brought him in certain situations as a reliever, and it was almost like he was feeling his way through the outing when he had 1 inning. And he gave up some runs because of it. And then, the first hitter, you see 92, 93, and then by the 4th hitter, he's already given up a run, and now it's 97, 98. And you're like, Taylor, you got to go out and do that from the first pitch. And so the bullpen was never his comfort zone. And I'm not saying like he's going to be a starter for the rest of his career because he may end up going back there with that kind of arm. But right now, it's just when we put him in the starting role, it was almost like a first pitch of the game, 95. I was like, whoa, what? Usually it's the other way around. He actually threw harder as a starter sometimes. But that's just, he loves to start. He loves the routine of starting. And he's obviously, fell into that role and adjusted nicely.
What changes have you seen from Nathaniel Lowe these past few weeks from last year?
I've seen a lot of, I guess, physical, staying in his legs a little better. He still comes out of them every once in a while, especially on the fastballs, but I like where he's at. I like the adjustments he's made, with his swing where his hands are starting. The rear elbow, I don't want to get too technical, but like the rear elbow's not climbing up so far. I love the dialogue that he has with our hitting coaches. I think there's obviously a high, like I've always said this, but there's definitely another level to Nathaniel. He could be elite as a hitter because he has a lot of attributes. Obviously the physical attributes, he can hit the ball a mile, doesn't swing at balls, stays in the strike zone, values that. So if you include all that, and if there's some consistency with, getting the specific pitches, mainly the fastball, if he can consistently do that and get it, in the air, it doesn't have to be to the pull side, but just in the air more often, he could do a lot of damage. We saw it a lot at times last year. He had a really good year last year. But like I said, there's still another tier he has to get to, if not more than one more tier that I think he can get to, because he's pretty talented and he's a smart kid. Was able to be, durable last year. Played every day. Just kept him in there, kept rolling him out there every single day. Defensively, I think he's made a lot of improvements. I think that's where the biggest thing for me, coming into camp, he looks really good over there. He's working really hard at it. So I expect him to have a pretty big year this year.
How important is it for guys like Dane, Taylor, whoever that 5th starter may be, for them to reach a next level for the success of this team?
It's really important. I think, I've asked everybody in the organization to kind of level up. So I expect those guys, especially if I didn't think they were capable of it, I wouldn't say it out loud. I think both those guys and all of the guys that are kind of battling for that 5th spot, we have some pretty exceptional human beings, in our camp. And, the way they want to learn, the way they want to grow. You hear our best pitcher in John, Gray talking about how he's learning something new every day. And that's just the environment we've always wanted to create. And, with pitchers, you don't want to overwhelm them, but at the same time, like, there are little things you can learn every day about yourself, about your stuff. Like I said, just kind of, we're getting to this pinpoint, strategic preparation. Everything we do is to be better. And I think with those guys, with Taylor and Dane, their success obviously has a lot of, I guess, parallels to our success as a team. If they perform well, if they perform better than expected, we're going to be a pretty good team. That doesn't mean they can have a bad year. Obviously, somebody's probably not going to do as well as we'd like, but their success will help us a lot, obviously, in the win-loss column.
Just curious with the lease, are you looking to anchor him into one position and not flip him around, whether it's center or right, kind of like what you did with Joey moving him to right?
Yeah, I mean, as of now, I think that has to do with some of the guys that are in, Leote in particular, or even a guy, if Eli White, if he makes our team or if he doesn't, Bubba Thompson. You're talking about some of these guys that can play center field. If one of those guys knocks the door down and forces us to play them every day, it would be an easy one to just move Adolis to right field, where I think that's his best position. And I'm not saying that because I don't think he's a good center fielder. I think he's an elite center fielder. But I do think he would be the best right fielder in baseball if he just plays right field. That's how talented he is. He's fast. He's got a great arm. He's fearless out there. Makes plays around the wall. He clearly makes plays over in our dugout area somehow on a line drive from Fletcher last year. But, I mean, this guy's instincts are off the chart. So right now he's in center. Depending on those guys I talked about, if somebody doesn't take that step forward, then he probably stays in center all year.
So how soon are we talking about somebody knocking down a door?
We'll see. I don't know. That remains to be seen. I can't answer that until that door is knocked down. you will know based on numbers, and we have
by the All-Star break.
I mean, it could be sooner than that.
Yeah.
Just depends, But the things have to line up. It's not just about numbers. It's not this guy, has 1,000 OPS in AAA. There's got to be some consistency to what he's doing, falling in line with what we want here. Following the game plan, being able to handle elite pitching, consistent every day. If that's the case and somebody's just absolutely dominating, we may and it may not be just hey, you're in center field now. It may bring them up, kind of introduce them to it, and if they take it and run with it, then we have an elite center fielder and an elite right fielder, and we'll pick up the pieces. We'll have a really good, obviously lineup at that point.
I guess kind of on that note with Leote, Bubba Thompson was assigned to Round Rock too, and I know we keep saying there's time for Leote to grow, but it seems like it's shrinking a little bit with who you have on the big league club and who you have under him coming up.
I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing for everybody because, listen, Leote could literally DH every day, and I would still have no problem putting him in center field. So the fact that those two guys are going to be down there doesn't matter to me. Bubba's I haven't seen play as much. Leote, I have 100% trust in playing center field. I think he can get better in certain areas, but I have no problem putting him out there. So the fact that if he's playing left field or right field or even DH, and he needs to hit, he needs to be consistent with the bat quality. Like I talked about, the game planning, the swing. If there's consistency there and the talent, because his talent is higher than anybody, maybe in our organization. If he ever gets close to, maximizing that talent, he will be an everyday player in the big leagues. So it's, at that point, it doesn't matter if he had played half the games in center or right. But I love that there's so many guys to push us, to push each other. So when you're here in the big leagues, that there's guys right on your back. And that's what good organizations are like. That's what all of them are like. They all have that depth, and they all push each, the guys in here know, hey, there's a standard of performance that it takes to be on a winning team, and we're in a much better shape than we have been in the last couple of years.
I remember last year you talked about wanting to see Eli bunt more. Are you continuing to have those conversations?
It's a weapon. Yeah, I mean, it's a weapon. Obviously, we want to see him hit, but when it comes to winning a game and being a baseball player, that should be part of his arsenal. The guy runs a 3.5 to first base from the right side. He's the fastest guy in baseball. Use that to your advantage. So if there's a runner on first and the guy's third baseman's playing back on you, why not take a shot at it? If you get it down, we're first and second, nobody out, or run on second, nobody out, and you put a bunt down, you're doing your job to help us maybe get a run, but also putting a ton of pressure on the defense. I mean, Delino DeShields kind of stands out. I would tell him, hey, anytime there's first and second, nobody out, I am not going to put a bunt on. You do it yourself. We don't need to put a sign on. You know how important that is to the team. You can bunt and beat it out, and now we have bases loaded, nobody out. Or they throw it down the right field line, which they usually do. So using your speed it's just a weapon. So I would encourage him to do it, but obviously we want to see him hit, more often.
How can Eli become a better base stealer with his speed?
Trust his speed, and he does his homework. He's just a little bit. There's a tiny bit of hesitation sometimes when it comes to the jumps. He doesn't fully trust sometimes what he sees, and there's a slight hesitation, and then he goes. which sometimes leads to the, late break, good throw, up the line a little bit, tag him on the, on the leg or something, and he's out. So he just needs to get out of that comfort zone of just like, okay, I'm going to be perfect. You can't be perfect in this game. And I've talked to our whole base running group about that. You got to be fearless out there. You're not going to hear anything from me. Obviously, I preach it every day. I'm loud about it. I want people to know that we're going to run. I want people to know that we're going to pressure you. I have no problem saying that. And Eli has to just really grasp that, especially with his speed. Because if he does, he can become an elite guy.
Then Nathaniel Lowe's not Eli White's speed. Maybe not someone you'd consider fast, but did a good job stealing bases last year. Is that, there's the deception or the, not expecting it, but is he, or what you said about Eli, is Lowe really good at reading pitchers and trusting that? So what allows him to steal bases?
I think he's just, I think one thing I've challenged every single player we have that is on the offensive side. You have a role to play in our base running, whether that's getting dirt ball reads. If you're Jose Trevino and one of the slower guys, if this guy's going 1-6 to the plate and you can get a jump, there's something to key off of. You make sure you get a good jump. You're going to make it. Just do the math. You know what I mean? It's a simple math problem when it comes to this guy's this quick to the plate, this guy throws this fast to second base. If you can get there in that amount of time, you're going to be safe. And so we're going to roll the dice based on, I'm guessing you would be a little bit slower than Trevino, but whatever that is, Jared, we will say, hey, 1.8 or higher, you're gone. And I would expect you in that situation, if you're facing a guy who does not control the running game, and we're just standing at first base and this guy's a 1.8 to the plate, not good enough. So I think Nathaniel just took that to heart and said, okay, the times when I can run, when the situation presents itself, I'm gone. And it's as easy as that. And it's not rocket science. It's just, hey, if this guy's going to give it to us, we're going to take it. And so we're going to force that guy, even with Lowe at first base, to say, hey, man, I got to think about this guy a little bit. If that's the case, it's taken away from the hitter, or it's taken from his, full attention on the hitter. And there's still a little bit of attention on that base runner, which probably leads to a little less execution, a little less stuff. And if he's a 1-3 instead of a 1-6, because Nathaniel's over there threatening him to run, guess what? Our hitter's going to, pay the dividends.
Who's the best slow base stealer you played with or coached?
Pujols, by far. This guy takes an hour to run to first base, but yet can steal third base on us sometimes, and we're just like, what just happened? Because But listen, we go, hey, Pujols is second. This guy can't run at all. We just keep doing the same thing over and over again. All of a sudden, he picks a pitch and goes. He can't continue to apply that pressure, but he sneak attacks you and he'll get you. He'll get second base sometimes if you just fall into a rhythm. I want our guys to be. I want the other team to game plan for us like no other. They're like, hey man, every guy on the roster will run if you give it to them. And so, like I said, if all the times are lower or faster because of it, we've done our job, and we will reap the benefits in the batter's box. Clearly, we have a better offensive team this year. That I think in the last couple of years we haven't reaped the benefits of our base running, but we will at some point.
Okay, good.